thing, make sure it's turned on. Rachel will open first, and then I'll introduce you guys.
So did Steve give you a mic?
There is a mic somewhere Lexi told me to use, but is it?
There's a mic somewhere.
I think it's
Oh, there it is, right there.
Oh, see?
She's got it already.
Yes.
Already on it. Already on it. It's full. It's nice.
I think we have a full house.
I think so. It's nice.
See how popular you are?
I don't think it's me. I don't think it's me.
I mean, as they say, a job well done.
Is done.
So far, that doesn't mean that you can roll over and play dead.
My work is never done, Roger. My work is never done. Oh, there's still more people. Oh, there's Daisy. Oh, good. Kelly's got a seat for her. I was like, is Daisy just coming in without a seat?
But you have to think, this crowd is nothing compared to what.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Kalamazoo Foodways Symposium. My name is Rachel Baer, and I work in this community as the Director for Sustainable Food Systems here at Kalamazoo Valley Community College. And I am so thrilled to be welcoming you all to the 8th Kalamazoo Foodways Symposium. This is an event that's hosted by Kalamazoo Valley Community College. It's a collaboration between the Kalamazoo Valley Museum and the Sustainable Food Systems, Culinary Arts, and Community Nutrition programs of the college. The Kalamazoo Foodways Symposium inspires and empowers greater Kalamazoo communities to honor our agricultural history and heritage cuisines, celebrate good food, and work together to build a just and healthy future for all. This year's event, Freshwater Foodways, highlights the various ways water shows up in our lives and our culture, with a focus on the foodways of the Anishinaabeg people, whose foods and culture revolve around the abundant fresh water in this Great Lakes region. So thank you to those of you who joined us earlier this evening for the water ceremony, and Chimigwet to Daisy and Kelly for leading that with us. Thank you for inviting us into that with you. And thank you for those of you who attended the seed swap with the Kalamazoo Seed Collaborative as well, and there's so much more to come. Tomorrow's events take place at the Marilyn J. Schlack Culinary and Allied Health Building down on Walnut Street from 10 to 3 p.m., with also some activities at the Food Innovation Center. There will be food demonstrations, discussions, talks, walks, activities for people of all ages, indoors and out. And the weather should be lovely, spring weather, maybe cloudy. That's okay. And tonight, following the talk, I'd also like to invite you to stay for a sample of the Manoomin rice salad, which is a recipe from our friend Chef Sam Anglin. Chef Sam is a member of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe and the tribal food educator at Saginaw Chippewa Tribal College. And Sam planned to be here with us for this event, but his mother passed away earlier this week. So he is not here, and he asked that the Chef Joel Boone from Kalamazoo Valley's culinary program and his students prepare his recipe for us this evening. And he also asked that we share that food in honor of him and his mother, Connie. So please stay and join us to send love to Sam. There's also a card. We're making him a meadow of of well wishes. So please put some marks of green ink on that paper. Turn my page, take a breath. Kalamazoo Valley is grateful to have the generous collaboration of all of our speakers and presenters. This event is truly a showcase of the deep knowledge and expertise in this community and the energy and love that all of you bring. It has taken on a life of its own that I cannot even believe from where we started 8 years ago. The event is made possible by a grant from the Kalamazoo Valley Foundation, and it's the work of many individuals across the college. Here's my thank you list. I want to thank our events management team, facilities and custodial services, the faculty and staff chefs in our culinary programs that make this event run smoothly, and the program staff at the Food Innovation Center and the Kalamazoo Valley Museum, for whom this is an all-hands-on-deck event. In particular, Lexi Schroeder-Cobb, the Associate Director of the Museum, and Christina Petrovska, Program Coordinator at the Food Innovation Center. Their heart-forward, relationship-centered approach to planning this event has resulted in the joy and magic we are all experiencing today. So thank you for being here. It matters where we show up. It matters that we show up. And it's only together that we can create a community that can thrive. It matters that we are here. So now I would like to invite Christina up to introduce our speakers.
Good evening, everybody. It is such an honor to be here with all of you tonight and to unite in this essential topic of our connection to water. I want to extend my gratitude to all of you for joining us tonight. Gratitude to the gifts that Mother Earth showers us with every day. Food to eat, air to breathe, the gift of water, the joy of birdsong, spring. And gratitude for all of our Anishinaabeg relatives and ancestors on whose homeland we meet. Today, it is my utmost honor to introduce to you our keynote speakers, who will be speaking on behalf of Manoomin. Roger LaBine is a member of the Lakeview Desert Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and the Three Fires Manoomin Lodge. He's employed in the Environmental and Planning Department as a water resource technician. He's the current tribal delegate of the Michigan Wild Rice Initiative and co-chairman of the Native Wild Rice Coalition. He's the recipient of the 2019 Michigan Heritage Award from Michigan State University Museum for his work with Manoomin restoration and preservation. He shares his knowledge widely through conducting Manoomin camps and workshops throughout the Midwest, and today generously accepting our offer to come here and share with us. He was inspired by his uncle, Niganash, who was also his teacher and mentor. And I'm excited to welcome our second speaker, Cortney Collia. Cortney is an enrolled member of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians. She's an education and outreach committee member of the Michigan Wild Rice Initiative. She's a water walker, traditional healer, and licensed massage therapist. She has dedicated her life to the conservation, preservation, and protection of wildlife ecosystems in Manoomin. It is this dedication, love, and gratitude for our Mother Earth that inspires her to continue to share the knowledge she has been entrusted to hold. And all of us, we want to welcome you. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we are honored to have you here. If you could join me in welcoming Cortney and Roger.
Thank you, Christina. I'm always encouraged when I could come and I'm invited and I see a packed house. There's not an empty seat that I can see, but I can't see anything. But I'm glad that, and honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to come and learn about something that's very, very sacred to me. And what that is what you see on the screen right now. It's Manidoo Ogititgann. In my language and in my community, we call that the spirit garden. And as Christina had said, I was inspired by my uncle. And I've been working with wild rice since 1972. So I wanted to say that much, and I wanted to open this by saying and inviting my ancestors and my relatives with us by saying, Nindewe Maganiduk, because whenever I do something like this, I don't do it alone. They are here with me, and I invite them with me because they give me the strength and the courage to share with you, and they are the ones that can be my feelers for you. You know, there's times when I do presentations such as this that something comes out that I don't know where it comes from. That's because my relatives are with me. They're out there. They're looking at that and finding those questions. And they tell me, this is what you need to say. So I invited those and your ancestors to be with us. And I'll begin after inviting them by saying, Anin, Vieux, Matikunan Indigenous, Gigu Duadeb, Ojibwa Anishinaabeg and Dao, Ogititgann and Nunjuba. And what I did is I addressed my relatives in my native language with my spirit name. And my spirit name is Ogititgann, which is tree spirit. And I'm from that fish clan. And I'm from the Ojibwa nation. And I'm from that Ogititgann, land of that old garden, which is on the western end of the UP. So I've worked very, very hard to bring wild rice back to my community and for my community. And I continue to do that. And I'll turn it over to Cortney.
Vieux, Gishianakudque, Naganing Ogimakwe, Cortney Indigenous, Obajeji Boyd Indodem, Ojibwe Anishinaabeg, Quina Folkus Nordathos, and Italia, Bawating Indodriba, Kalamazoo and Norongon. So what I said in the language was my name. I have a few. I'm known as Cortney, but I'm also Gishianakudque, Great Cloud Woman. Those clouds are my teachers. Those clouds are the water, which we'll talk about today. And those clouds are ancestors that help me to speak every day. I am of the Martin clan, as well as the Boyd clan of Scotland. I come from the northern forests of Europe, from Italy, and a variety of other places throughout the East. And I live in Kalamazoo today. And as he said, our ancestors are with us. When I speak and I introduce who I am, I speak to all of my ancestors from every different way. And some of them have been not so nice to the other parts. And I have to make peace with that. I have to bring all of the parts of myself together. I have to bring all of my ancestors together when I speak, so that I am a full human being when I meet you. And I am so honored to meet you today. So what you saw was the spirit garden. As we live our lives, we move with the understanding and the teachings that have been given to us. And for us as Anishinaabe, what you see up here are gifts given to us from the grandfather, from our grandfathers. They looked around and observed the other beings who were here, the other animals who were here, and how they lived, how they lived a good life, so that we too can live that good life. All of these things are very in-depth and would take a very long time to explain to you. And because we have to talk about water and Manoomin also, I can't give you all of these things. But I do want to show them to you. I do want you to see that they can be brought down to a single word, but there are a great many teachings. I'm going to stand up and wander because I'm terrible at staying in a chair. I won't wander into your way, but I want to look at some of my notes. So at the very top, you see respect, or manaji idiwin. We learned that from the buffalo. I don't know if you all know this, but you should never go up to a buffalo and try to pet it. You need to have respect for that buffalo. So these are things we learn and know. Zaga idiwin, or love. Love is what comes from the inside and radiates out. It is how we should meet and greet one another. Dabasandiziwin is humility, lowering ourselves to the level of those around us, to know that we rely on all of those other orders. We rely on the plants and the trees and all of those other beings to house us, to clothe us, and to feed us. Having that humility to know that we are not above them. Nibwakawin, or wisdom, is not just the knowledge we gain from observing, it's what we do with that knowledge. It's how we share it, how we care for it. Debwewin is the truth. It's speaking from only my experience. It's speaking from what I know. It's not embellishing or being more than what I am. Akadewin, or bravery, sometimes known as courage, is what it takes to live a good life, to be in this life, and to share it with others. And I always say this one wrong, Gwekwadisiwin, or honesty, is a combination of all of those things. It's being exactly who you are in every moment and not feeling inferior with it and not trying to make it more. When we walk in this world and we walk amongst one another, we do so as Anishinaabe people with these understandings. Not everybody chooses to walk that way. But this is what we were taught. So this is how we try to live. And at any time when we take one of these out, we become imbalanced. It's no longer a good life, or minobiwandiziwin. It is imbalanced. When you're imbalanced, you are no longer at ease in the world around you. You're fighting the world around you. This can cause disease or dis-ease. This is where sickness comes from. So in everything that we do, and everything that we teach, and how we share, and our understandings of this world, we keep all of these things in mind as we try to walk a good life.
And, you know, we head into, as the Creator created this universe, and He created the Anishinaabe people, and He gave those cardinal principles, and He blessed us with those gifts. We also need those gifts for our original agreement. And what I talk about is the first treaty. That first treaty that was made between the Anishinaabe and all other orders of creation. And we talk about Nibi. Nibi is in that first order. That first order, there are like 4 building blocks. Ni-B is 1, water. The sun, the heat, the air that we breathe. Without air, we wouldn't survive. How long would you last if you put a plastic bag over your head?
Please don't do that.
How long would you,
It's not good for you.
how long would you last without water? And then the rock, or Mother Earth, that is needed for all the other orders, the second and the third order, because that is, and for us. Those are the 4 building blocks. That second order is that plant order. That plant order is for all of our medicines, for our foods, that it sustain us, nourish us, and heal us. That's what we need that plant order for. That third order is the wildlife, or the animals. And a lot of those principles that we have in order to walk a good life were brought by those animals and the way that they live. By watching them, we learn. We are the 4th order, the human being, or the Anishinaabeg people. We were put here with a purpose. That purpose was to take care of those first 3 orders. And it is required, and that's where this initial law, the sacred law, nature's law, is we need to live in balance with those first 3 orders. Because when we overharvest, when we abuse, when we destroy, when we contaminate, all those things, we hurt ourselves. Mother Earth would do very well if we left this place. Because those first 3 orders, they do not provide for themselves. An apple tree doesn't grow apples to feed itself. Well, that's food for us. That strawberry plant, or that medicinal plant, or that deer. You know, they sacrifice for us. They sacrifice and give to us. And that's where a lot of things that, you know, one of those really cardinal rules is to honor and respect those first 3 orders. And we need to tend for them, just like a garden, just like our young ones. And when we look at them, we have to understand each one of those things are the living thing. Each and every one of them has a spirit. And we consider them as family. So how you treat them is an indication of how you treat your family. Would you do things to them that you would not do to your family? No. We have to live in balance with them, and we learn, and we are responsible to take care of them. So that's the great laws of nature, and that is that first treaty.
So just to expand on that a little bit, the land that we are living on today is Mikinak-Minis, or the Snapping Turtle Island. Some people know it as North America, but it looks like a turtle. If you think about it, where Alaska is, where Florida comes down as a foot, where Mexico makes a tail, there is a turtle. And we have always called it Turtle Island. In our stories, it tells us how Turtle Island came to be. And it was the sacrifice of the other beings that allowed humans to find a place. I don't have the time to tell you again all the stories. They take a long time to really take them in. But to kind of wrap it into a summary, the muskrat is the one that gave us the land. When the earth was flooded and full of water, many different animals tried to go down and bring up land. The only one who could do it was the muskrat. And he went down there, got the handful. All the other animals thought he was gone, but his body floated up. He sacrificed his life for what remained in his hand, which was the dirt that made the land that we stand on. It is the animal kingdom that combined with the minerals to create the land we stand on. And they put it on the turtle's back, which is why I love this photo, because you can see the layers of the land that is still happening in the world today. These may be old stories. They may be to some other people who it's not their culture, simply a myth. But when you look around the world today, you see what the animals do, and you see that they're still doing to this day what the stories tell us about. There is always a mirror from the past to the present. There is a mirror from the inside to the outside. There is a mirror from below to above. So we see that today. Nana Boozhoo gave names to all of these things so that we could begin to understand. The English language does not really describe much of anything. It's more of a scientific system that allows us to point at it and both agree that this is a bottle. That's about it. But the Anishinaabe language will describe to you everything that you're seeing. It is very in-depth, and many languages that are historical, older languages are very descriptive. So when you see a plant, you don't see a plantain. You see the one that draws infection. That's their name. When we speak in English, we forget what we're looking at. We forget that our relatives have names. We forget that they have gifts that they give to us. But in the Anishinaabe language and in other historical languages, we still remember. This is why language is so important. The older languages describe to you where you stand and why you stand there and what that being in front of you can share with you. That's why when we say our names, we say it in the Anishinaabe language, to address those who were here before, those who are coming, and to the spirit who understands what it means to be a cloud woman. There's great depth and understanding in the way that we speak. And that brought us to our prophecies, which I'm going to let Roger talk about.
In the beginning, after Mother Earth and Turtle Island came, our ancestors lived up there at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River, and there is a lot of Algonquins, and that's where our language comes from. And there was a Quay who had a dream. And she had a dream that she was standing in the middle of the water. And she was standing elevated. She was standing on something. And so she went to the spiritual leaders. And she wanted an interpretation of that dream. Because, you know, in ours we have visions. It tells us what we need to do and helps describe. It tells us what we need to do with our life, what gifts we're given. So she wanted an interpretation of that dream. And so those spiritual leaders, they prayed to the Creator. And they wanted, you know, the answers and the interpretation to that dream. And the response from the Creator was that he sent 7 times prophets. One time there was a pair. And I'm not going to go into all 7 visits, but what I'm going to, for today about the water and with Manoomin, I'm going to share part of the first and the third prophecy. In the first prophecy, by that first prophet, we were instructed to leave our homeland. Even though our homeland was, as far as you could look in any direction, was the Manidoo fires of the 3 fires people. We were strong, we were, and everything. But those prophets told us that we needed to leave. because we were going to be visited from across that Great Salt Lake. We were going to be visited by people and that were going to come on logs with clouds. So what happened in 1492?
Columbus got lost, y'all.
And we were forewarned that if we didn't leave, that we were going to face death and destruction. And think about it today. How many tribal communities do you see up and down that eastern seaboard? How many Indian and tribal indigenous communities survived the onslaught of that? So, you know, it wasn't, so we adhered to that message and to that prophecy. In the third prophecy, we were directed to follow the Migas shell. The Migas shell is the one that reoccurs in that bubbling waters. We were also to follow that cowrie shell, or that Migas shell. We were supposed to follow it to that place where that food that grows on the water, that food of the water that grows in the water, was at the heart of Turtle Island. As Cortney said, when you can envision Turtle Island, and if you look at where that heart of that turtle would be, is the Great Lakes Basin. The Great Lakes Basin is the only native place that Manoomin grows. Zizania aquatica and Zizania palustris. It's been carried to other parts of the world, you know, and tried, but the only place that it's native is in the Great Lakes Basin. And, you know, also the Great Lakes Basin is the largest freshwater source on Mother Earth. And so, you know, one of the things about that was it was a fulfillment of that third prophecy. So when we left and we are still here today, it's because of we found that food that grows on the water, which is Manoomin. And we've learned that it is part of our life. It's part of our identity. And again, when those colonizers came in from that east coast, it started moving westward. Their work and their industrialization and their assimilation and, you know, infrastructure building, taking and even here in the lower peninsula, wiping out all the timber, destroying all of the waterways, dewatering a lot of the wetlands. What went with it? Manoomin. And so when we came here, we fulfilled those prophecies and other ones. And so that's why we honor that Manoomin today.
So the water, or Nibi, is also alive. And there was a scientist who actually studied that. I forget his name right now. But he studied that when you said nice things to the water, it made a beautiful pattern. When you said mean things to the water, it made shattered pieces and it didn't make a pattern. I can't remember his name. But that truly explained that the water is alive. And when we say water is life, we don't just mean it figuratively. We mean it 100%. If you look at the bottom here, I'm kind of standing in the way. I don't know where to go. I'm just going to roam around. If you look at the bottom, I've broken your body down. This is your body. Depending on the research, you're anywhere from 50 to 70% water as a whole. But your brain and your heart are composed of about 73% water. Your lungs, about 83% water. Every component of your body has a percentage of water. That is who you are. And as Daisy said earlier, that's also how we bring life into this world. That's the waters we carry to bring life. That is also made of water. That is a sacred pathway, an understanding, and a way of being. So when we say water is life, we mean it. And hope that you connect with that understanding deep within yourself. You are water. You are life. Water is life. What you do to the water, you do to yourself. What you do to yourself reflects in the water. We live in a place where we have had contaminated water. We have seen it come down the Kalamazoo River. We have seen it be in entire water systems because the piping is wrong. We see random illness throughout our communities that is unexplained because nobody has yet tested the water. Water is life. If you care for your life, you should care for the water. And when you care for the water, it will care for you. It will continue your life. Without water, you will not survive. None of us will.
So in part of that third prophecy, the gifts from the Creator, it was that indicator that we fulfilled that prophecy when we found that Manoomin. And we also learned how to care for it. We learned how to process it. In the last film, go backwards. This is part of that, we are teaching people how to actually harvest it. We're teaching them canoe safety. You can see several men with the poles there trying to learn how to push themselves to the rice bed. This guy over here, I'm not sure really what he's trying to do.
I think that's Gary. I think he's trying not to fall.
Okay, go ahead. And so, we've learned how to be able to take that grain. I mean, because it's really not really a rice, it's an aquatic grass. And it's a grain. And so, but we learned how to process it and do it. And tomorrow, Courtney's going to show you how to make a good casserole tomorrow.
Roger is. He's a better cook than me, but you should come out. It's going to be great.
But it is very, very important to us. And we use that a lot as almost like petitions, almost as good as it's one of those sacred plants that we use instead of like the sacred medicines.
Learning to speak to that water and learning to speak to that Manoomin is something that takes time. It's the same as learning to speak to anyone in your family. We all think differently. We all believe things differently. Sometimes it's really hard to speak to someone who's very close to you. It takes time. You have to learn how to do it. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you go out into the rice bed, you got rice, it's fabulous. Conversation was great. Sometimes it's not. In this slide, you see our mentors and the people who have taught us many things. And they've taught us how to speak to the water, how to listen, because speaking is not all talking, and how to be present in every moment. I never got to meet Naganash. I'll let you talk about him in a minute. I'm going to go over here. But Roger is my great mentor as well. And so that lineage line there has been extremely significant in my life and my understanding of myself and the world. This man here is Ogititgann, also a cloud person. So we get along very well. In this photo, he is seeding the rice. This is something he hadn't done since he was a child. I was very privileged to be with him that day in that canoe. The amount of knowledge that he held, that he remembered from when he was a child, paired with all of the learning that he had done over the years to be the great medicine man that he is, this much was shared with me. And I'm always learning every day, and I'm always learning more. But I learned how to be in the water. I learned how to listen to the water. and I learned how to laugh and tell jokes with the water and how that changed the day. And it changed the water inside of me. Everything that he taught me changed the water inside of me.
This is my mentor, Naganash. You can see him in this picture. He's got the asema in his hand. We were out to go out and plant some rice. And what he's doing is he's offering a prayer to all those spirit beings, to that water spirit, to that plant, to Mother Earth, to the wind, to the thunderbirds to bring that rain, to the sun to grow, to Mother Earth to give them nourishment. And when we talk about the Manidoo Ogititgann, you know, he was the one that showed me that we are in church wherever we are. And he was the one that directed me to say that even when we go out to that Ogititgann, that, you know, it's like, the way he explained it to me was, even if you lived next to your neighbor for 20 years, would you walk up to him, and I mean, when you walk over next door, open the door, walk into the kitchen, open up the refrigerator, grab a cold Pabst and maybe a leftover chicken leg, walk back into the living room, pick up the remote, turn the TV on, put your legs up on the coffee table, and sit there and start singing and watching TV. How do you think your neighbor would take to that?
Not well, usually.
That's the same thing that he said, is when you go out, you have to announce yourself. You have to let them know that it's a sacred gift, that, you know, every time you go out there, you have to do it. And you have to do that not only for the Ogititgann, but any other orders and any other spirit beings that sacrifice for you. You offer that tobacco and thank them. And you only take what you need.
So when you go and you only take what you need, we do that when we gather the rice. We do that when we gather anything. If we're getting strawberries, if we're getting corn, whatever you're getting, you take only what you need. But we take it for so many things, and we ask before we take it. Here, you can see just some of the ways that Manoomin sits in our lives. Sometimes it's at ceremonies, day one or other, any sort of celebration. At all stages of life, rice is present. Rice can be ground down into flour or ground into kind of that small stuff that babies can eat. And then all the way up to when you get really old and your teeth are about the same as when you were a baby, you can still eat that rice, right? So rice at all stages of our lives and celebrations is present with us. It also can be used as trade or a petition. If you need to ask somebody a question, if you need help with going to an event or going to a ceremony, you can offer someone Manoomin. You also can offer them tobacco like we all did with the water today, or those who attended. You can ask with the tobacco, but you can also ask with Manoomin, because Manoomin is such a strong family member to us, such a strong medicine to us, that is a great honor to be handed rice or anything. It also can just be in our everyday lives. It can be in our community. It can be at feasts. It can be just having dinner with friends. It brings things to us emotionally. It brings things to us in accomplishments. It brings it to us in connection with others. And it brings us nutrients within our bodies, which I'll let Roger tell you more about.
This is a graph of a comparison between white rice, brown rice, and wild rice, and the advantages of it. And I can tell you why it is a special part of our nutritious diet. We try to have it, several times a week. But one of the biggest things, and why I've always put that at the top, is, you know, the zinc. The zinc, because it's kind of an organic grass. But what's important with the zinc, it's very, very important to our immune system. And one of the things that the earlier in our ancestors took and were receptive to and susceptible to was disease when it came from across the pond. I mean, not only did the processed foods and stuff that we take today, why we have diabetes and everything, but the zinc is important. But if you look at a lot of the other things that is important and utilized in our body, the hand processed, hand, you know, done, hand and cooked very well, the advantages of using wild rice over brown rice, which they say is very nutritious and better than white rice. But wild rice is more important, and that's why today it's a growing importance, or a lot of people are becoming more aware of it. I think it's because of the work Cortney and I do with the initiative and teaching and everything else. But it's becoming very, very sought after.
In addition to it being sought after, it's sacred to us. And so there are people who create paddy rice. So you can go into like Sewalls, you know, and stuff, and they have wild rice. They have one that is from Canada that is mixed with other rices. I've checked all the rice at Sewalls, you guys. But there's other ones that are called wild rice. They're made in California. They're made in paddies. It's not the wild rice that we have here. It's wild rice that has been combined with white rice to make an even, always yielding at the same time. It's much smaller. It looks very different. But it's still being called wild rice. So because the actual wild rice, or Manoomin, is so sacred to us, it's important to not only support our communities who are processing that rice, but to really look into where all of your food is coming from. Is it coming from a place of clean water? Is it coming from a place of a good community? Or is it just being heavily processed, overdone, and chemically changed to be ripe all at the same time? Along the lines of understanding that, Manoomin is a great teacher to us, being so sacred to us. It is a reflection, like I said before. There are always reflections from the inside to the outside, from the top to below. And I think there's really no other easier way to explain who you are as a person, to connect to your own water, than to show you how wild rice is you, how you are the rice and your life is reflected. So in this top photo over here, that is the Manoomin seed. When it comes off of the plant, it still has that long tail. That long tail helps it go down into the soil, that nice, thick, about 3 feet of mucky yuck that is very nutritious. It has that tail to get down into the mother, into Mother Earth. The same is true of us. There is a seed with a very long tail. It's called something else. But it has to get down into the mother. It has to do the same process. And then it is held deep in the mother, deep in the soil, deep inside. There's a floating leaf stage for wild rice. Once that seed takes hold inside the mother, there's a floating leaf stage. That little baby floats the same as that little baby. They have to do that. There's growth that happens there. There's understanding that happens there. There's creation that happens there in the waters in you and the waters in the world. Then, scientifically, you know, there's anaerobic and aerobic, and we don't say babies are anaerobic versus aerobic. We don't use the same words in English for things, like I said, how language is important. But the same thing happens. That baby goes from the water into the air. That rice goes from the water into the air. The same development process is happening. They're very fragile at this stage. If you don't know what rice is, and you're just paddling away, and you're actually going to do harm. It's the equivalent of like shaking a baby. Okay, like don't do that. It's not good. Don't shake the baby rice. It's not good. The same teachings apply to everything, despite the fact that our language is trying to make it separate and trying to make it different. It's the same thing. Once the rice matures, it has both the male and the female on the same stalk. We, as humans, have both a male and a female, a masculine and a feminine, a left and a right. We have that within ourselves. We have to create the alignment that is shown in Manoomin in order to walk in the world in a balanced way. There's always the reflection of the male and the female in multiple different people. We look as close as we can. Same color, right? Same color. I tried. But it's the mirror, it's the reflection of the inside balance. That balance, that alignment within yourself, that good life of the male and the female, whichever way you want to do it, that allows you the ability to walk in the world in a good way, to provide richness to others, to provide richness to other people's lives, to change other people's lives. It allows Manoomin to provide richness, food, and nutrients to people's lives, to the lives of birds, to the lives of the muskrat, to all of those who are in their community.
So the community and family, this is a very mature, ready to harvest, and you can tell the wild rice is ready to harvest if you can really look at it. There's some of those seed heads, they're the darker, almost purple color. And in the pollination aspect, which usually happens in July when that flowering stage happens, it's the pollination, and so the maturation and the ability to harvest any wild rice bed is probably about six to 8 weeks, usually from the 1st of September through the end of October. And that also is dependent on how the bed is treated, harvested and whatever. But if you follow some of the principles of harvesting wild rice, you can go down the same trail in about 10 days and get just as much wild rice, because you can see over that bed that it doesn't all ripen at the same time. And I tell everybody about the odaman that you used in the water ceremony today. When you go out to a strawberry farm and harvest, and when you go out there, how many types or how many colors strawberries do you see when you go out there and lift up them leaves? Are they all red? Are they all green? Are they all pink? They're in various stages. And when you harvest them, you harvest all the pink and white ones and green ones, right? What do? So
yeah,
when you go out into a rice bed, you don't want to harvest those ones either. You only want to harvest the ripe and mature ones. And so you can do that. And so that's one of those things that when you do it for the community and family, it's important that you kind of learn those type of things.
And how you move in the rice bed as well is with those same grandfather teachings that we talked about in the beginning. It's moving with respect through there so that you can go through that same area multiple times. It's moving with kindness and love and asking for only what you need. But there are many things that threaten wild rice.
And there are a lot of threats with the changes. And one of the things is that where does Manoomin grow? Manoomin grows in about 6 inches to about 3 feet of water. And as Cortney said, it requires 6 to 18 or up to 3 feet of soft organic mud. And it's got to have a flow through and everything else. But a lot of these things that the hydraulic changes through natural man-made ditches, drainage, water quality, and I mean, we're talking about air deposition as well. We're talking about PFAS, we're talking about mercury, talking about all those. We're talking about the impact that, climate change has, and, chemical contamination. One of the biggest things is that in the floating leaf stage, recreational and sporting vessels, the ones that especially do the wakes, or do it. One of the other ones is we call it aquatic invasive species, but they're just, our community calls them visitors. And, they're here for a purpose too. But, so one of the other ones is also sometimes a change in natural vegetation. So there are a lot of things that threaten that, and like I said, man-made dams and climate change are what are the two biggest things. And actually, the changes in the hydrology through infrastructure, whether it be a road, whether it be, a railroad. So there's a lot of things that have changed the water from the habitat for wild rice to grow in. Okay.
And all of those things have an effect on us as well and the waterways that we can get food out of. I hope you're not eating the fish out of the Kalamazoo River. I shouldn't have to say that. The water should be clean.
I mean,
We should care for it.
Even when you pick up your pamphlet for your fishing guide, there is a fish consumption warning for you for mercury. That's because of all the coal, coal burning, and EPA kind of did away with that. So,
But that's why we have to do things to protect rice. And obviously, both of us said that we were connected to the Michigan Wild Rice Initiative, and we have been doing some work, and mostly Roger has been doing work since the 70s. I'm just his shadow. It's mostly him doing a great deal of work in combination with a lot of others that I'll let him tell you about.
yeah, it's like one of those things is that when I started this work, Naganas did it, and when he walked on, I gave up. I had to make a choice to come home, and because he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he elected not to pursue treatment. So he was looking for somebody to carry on his work, but he was the one that brought me out to my rice bed for the first time in 1972, and we brought some rice back from a lake in northern Wisconsin and planted it in Vieux there. And when we started doing that, and especially after he walked on, it left a big void in my life. And so I put out tobacco, and I asked the Creator to send me these people and place them on my road to help me get this goal of bringing and restoring and making sure that wild rice would come back to our communities, especially the tribal communities. I tell Cortney several times, I said, you're one of those things that I learned a very important lesson. You have to be careful what you ask for.
You get stuck with me. It's been about 20 years now, and he still can't get rid of me. So.
But, Cortney and a lot of other people, I mean, I've done, Barb Barton, who wrote the Manoomin book, and a lot of other people. It wasn't me. I'm kind of, I might be, it takes two types of people to fight, right? It takes an instigator and an agitator.
Which one am I?
Did I dare say?
Either way, it's a team effort.
But we've actually come out, and actually when there's two sources, there's two links here. I like this one. bit.ly. Manoomin is life. Go to that. The other one is you can go to Michigan Intertribal Council and do that. But this guide is, I think it's 152, 154 pages. There's a lot of, and if you download this and go to read it, I encourage you through the first approximately 70 pages to probably take it in like 3 settings.
It's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information that sets the groundwork for what the initiative needs to do with regulations, habitat restoration, doing a lot of things, and those are the second half of the document. And that's where each and every one of you in this room can contribute and join up and help, whether it be to improve a habitat, like this is this was taken at a wild rice camp when we were on the Net River, and we were doing, as part of the wild rice camp, we were doing a restoration, and we were revitalizing this site right here. We're doing the water ceremony. We're asking everybody, or all the spirits there, to have pity on us and provide us. But it's a whole thing, and I mean, when we do these types of things, I mean, when I started doing this thing after Naganosh walked on in 2002, and we actually had to take on a power company, and we went through litigation, and we finally won. And the project sites that we did there was vandalism. There was being bed springs dragged through our projects such as this. And we couldn't prosecute them. You know why? Manoomin was gone so long from the state of Michigan, it wasn't recognized. The only thing that we could do was go through one of our partners, the U.S. Forest Service, the Ottawa National Forest, could write a citation for malicious destruction, just like you going out and digging up the flowers in the spring, the trilliums. It's the only thing that we could do, because the state didn't recognize Manoomin. We call that environmental amnesia. It was gone from the landscape for so long, it wasn't even recognized. And even Barb, when I met her, she worked for the Michigan Natural Features Inventory. It was the agency through Michigan State University that could give the distinction for plants, whether they be threatened, endangered. She didn't even know, through her education, that Manoomin was once dominant in the state of Michigan. That's how long environmental amnesia lasts.
Which is why, as we move forward, we should be working together. We need to stand bravely in times of turmoil, no matter how much there may be division, and remember that we are all water, that we are all the same, and that we need to help one another. We need to tap into the wisdom of the earth to share our stories with one another so that we can stand strong in the earth. We need to look at protections for the water quality, harvesting of Manoomin, and even standards for going into those Manoomin beds, to share the teachings that we have of being respectful and going in a good way. We need to join together to work on strategies, which is what that document that you just saw is. But all of us from different backgrounds need to come together in every way that we can and bring our own knowledge and our own understanding and share it at the table. Love is resistance. We need to stay determined to move with love and unity. Love is resistance. We need to strive to live in balance with ourselves and with one another so that we can live peacefully on this land. This is our land. We all live here. We have to work together to maintain it, to make sure our children's children have water and food. Chi-miigwech, thank you so much for having us here today. It has been our honor.
Needed those feathers, huh?
That picture there of the rice bed is, taken in 2011 when after we fought and we won with that Wisconsin Valley Improvement Company, and this was the largest that we've had in our rice bed. But ever since then, with the climate change and some other things, my job right now is to figure out why it's reversed. So it's kind of like this going down. So we're trying to reestablish that habitat that rice once thrived, not only in that time period, but in the time periods before that. So we're looking at doing that habitat restoration to that whole lake environment, because wild rice is a keystone species. I mean, it's important. I mean, and the indigenous people realize that, where a lot of the long-term villages were always designated around and located around a rice bed, because when you resided close to a wild rice bed, because it's a keystone species, it drew all the other animals and vegetation and medicines and food. So you didn't really have to trek out to do it, whether it be getting a goose, or whether it be getting a duck, whether it be getting a fish, whether it be getting a white-tailed deer. It was there, and so it's Western science does recognize it today. That's where they come up with the keystone species.
It helps to think of Manoomin as a family member who's helping everyone in that community.
Yep.
And we get to go into that community as well. And you are all now part of our Manoomin community. You now have knowledge that can help you walk in this world in a different way, that can ripple out and create change in the world. So we thank you all for that, and we can talk to Roger more later. But there is food, so I think Anishinaabeg has some things to say.
Is this working? Yes. Thank you, Roger and Courtney. And yes, we have food. Chef Joel has prepared the appetizers with the blessing of Chef Sam. So let's go and eat in honor of Chef Sam's mom, Connie. And come tomorrow, Saturday, for the Saturday portion of the event with cooking demonstrations. The event starts at 10 o'clock. We have an Anishinaabeg Foodways presentation with Kaya Deer in Water at 10:15, and then the cooking demo with Roger and Courtney is at 11. Many community exhibitors and vendors will be there. Lunch will be served at the cafe. Just the cafe will be just running their service for the day. So we hope you join us this evening. And Roger and Courtney will be available for questions around here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.